Hell-bent on destroying the Air Armada once and for all, Elliana soars to the skies and pounces when the time is right. An interesting reimagining of the Zoner archetype, she uses her arsenal of projectiles and hefty aerials to both trap and overwhelm her enemies. Her excellent air mobility and unique hover mechanic allow her to quickly reach opponents in situations where many others might not. This isn't just the case in neutral though, as once Ellie lands a hit, she has access to one of the most consistent and deadly punish games across the entire cast. That being said, what goes around comes around. Due to her huge hitbox, floaty stats, and poor escape options, this snake has a much harder time escaping combos and kill confirms than the rest of the roster. Because of this feast or famine nature, along with her vital meter mechanic, Elliana boasts a steep yet rewarding learning curve that promotes robust knowledge, tight execution, and creative plays. Instead of a traditional double jump, Elliana can fly. This flight doesn't last forever though. Instead, it's tied to her heat gauge, which can be seen at all times above her head in-game or next to her portrait on the HUD. As Elliana flies around in her mech, the meter rises and it slowly goes down again while not flying. Upon letting the meter fill up completely, the mech enters overheat state. While overheated, the mech loses the ability to fly as well as access to all of Elliana's special moves, Savor Her Up special, which quickly launches her out of the mech in an effort to minimize any further damage. In return, an overheated mech swaps out its usual flimsy steam-based strong attacks for massive explosions that can pack a punch. Hovering isn't the only thing that uses up her heat gauge though. Her specials do, as well as aerials, forward tilt, and dash attack when their inputs are held. On the flip side, all of Ellie's strong attacks will reduce her heat by an amount depending on how long you charge the strong for. A premature overheat can leave you with a restricted neutral or utterly helpless if you're off stage, but given enough practice, clever players will be able to route their combos so that they can enter overheat just as they reach the edges of the screen, sealing out stocks at criminally low percents. A good way to go about conserving meter, besides just puffing out steam over and over again, is to play more grounded. Even though many of Ellie's strengths are emphasized while in the air, utilizing grounded and platform movement is vital to lowering your heat gauge without committing to strong attacks and up special. Managing the amount of heat that the mech is taking is a core skill to learn for anyone looking to pilot it. Elliana's neutral game, while considered fairly one-dimensional, can be quite strong with right positioning. She excels at mid to long range thanks to her missiles and her top-tier aerial movement. Side Special launches a missile forwards that can be steered using the control stick. Once released, there's a small cooldown before you can shoot another missile, but it can't be spammed that quickly anyway, or else you'll go into overheat. Missile is an incredibly versatile tool that can be used to zone, approach, and whatever this is. You can also charge the missile while being fully mobile in the air in order to alter the spacing and timing. Generally, it is at its strongest while Ellie is moving. You can accomplish this by inputting it out of a short hop, full hop, or hover and then angling it towards your opponent. This can let you follow behind the missile and link it into an aerial, leading to a potential punish. Being too close while approaching this way might make your attacks whiff, and being too far lets people parry the missile on reaction, so learning the range where you can safely short hop missile is pivotal to starting your offense. As with all Rivals characters, it is important to stay mobile in general. Good grounded movement lets you stay safe while your heat gauge goes down, keeping you out of overheat. Along with this, learning how to move around platforms and on the ground is vital to defense in a game without consistent defensive options. Elliana's buttons up close leave a lot to be desired, so she can struggle to hold her own once the opponent gets in. Her best attacks for close quarters are jab and down tilt. At frame 5, jab is her fastest move. It's a quick sideways launcher that can give you a tech chase or even set up for an edge guard situation if you hit it close to the ledge. It can also be pretty useful as a get off me tool, however it pales in comparison to the reward you get from down tilt. While it is 2 frames slower than jab, it has 2 parts that combo into one another in a far more generous hitbox, which makes it more reliable in spots if you have time to throw it out. The second hit can act as a solid anti-air and leads into all of Elliana's aerials from 0 up until it confirms into a killing up air off the top. While the main use of the first hit is to combo into the second, it can also be used to string into other attacks such as jab and down air as a mix-up. On the topic of aerials, they are another powerful cornerstone of Ellie's neutral. Many of them have a decent bit of disjoint and start combos at nearly all percents. Neutral air in particular is really nice. It has a small early hit and a later strong hit with significant range, both of which can combo into themselves. Nair is a good move to use as an approach tool with missile, as well as a good way to control space by dropping through a platform with it. Similarly, down air can be used off of platforms or from above in order to start combos. It's a multi-hit attack with a final hit that sends opponents up and away, but the first 2 hits can still combo into her faster grounded moves if you land before the launcher. Nair has a useful niche in neutral against shorter characters such as Sylvanos and Arcane, since Nair can have a harder time hitting them. Be wary though, as the hitbox is quite modest in comparison to her other aerials. If you're using it while someone is attacking you from below, there's a good chance it will either lose entirely or wind up trading, which will also often end up with you at a disadvantage. Forward air combines the activeness of Dare with the front-facing hitbox of Nair, making it an excellent air-to-air or approach tool when up close. It is another multi-hitting aerial with 3 hits, although finding combos out of the first 2 is not nearly as reliable as it is with down air. Get used to hit following the final hit of Farewell on stage, rather than the weaker multi-hits. This will allow you to get the most out of the move for combos. Up air has a respectable niche as Ellie's best defensive air-to-air, good for beating aerial approaches and opponents that stick to platforms. It's probably her most straightforward tool here. See someone above you and swipe at them, but don't sleep on it as it can easily combo into itself over and over again for a bunch of damage. If you find yourself getting run down a lot or getting your parry and down tilt timings read, try stuffing out approaches with your other grounded normals. Due to their considerable end lag when whiffed, dash attack and forward tilt should be used sparingly, but their decent disjoint and lingering hitboxes can catch people off guard. You can also hold the attack input to increase the move's durations. In the case of dash attack, this can sometimes result in a full stage carry, leading to Ellie's strong edgeguard game. The final neutral tool that I want to talk about here is steam. As mentioned earlier, when not overheated, all of Elliana's strong attacks place down a cloud of steam and decrease her meter. The amount of steam that gets spawned, as well as the amount of meter that goes down, depends on how long the strongs get charged. This can be helpful for making your meter go down if you're too close to being overheated, but be cautious about where you end up placing the steam. If it's just above the ground, other players can run up and parry it, chaining its ownership so that it hits Elliana instead. Because of this, the best places for steam to be in neutral are at jump height and around platforms. This can restrict your opponent's movement or force them to whiff a move to push it out of the way, since an enemy's active attack in or around the steam disables its hitbox for a short bit. Elliana can also push it around with her own moves, so experiment with how you want to interact with it. Elliana's recovery is inherently pretty simple. It might just be the simplest thing about her. At a baseline, you want to use her hover to safely fly back to stage. But hover doesn't have a hitbox on its own to cover your ascent, and it uses a finite resource. It is naturally a very versatile recovery tool though, so there are a good amount of ways to alleviate this. The first of these is to simply throw out a move. You are fully actionable while you hover, letting you shark under the lip of the stage or return aggressively from above it. Holding the attack button while doing this gives you a slight boost in momentum, at the cost of a bit more meter, but keep in mind that you can only do this once per airtime. Similar to aerials, missiles are also a nice tool to fight off opponents at the ledge. Firing them as you peek over the edge of the stage or just before you're set to land is a good way to set up for a reversal, but there are plenty of other ways to mix up your timings once you have more practice with aiming missiles while moving. As with the rest of Elliana's game plan, staying out of overheat while recovering gives you the most options and ways to mix up. More than anything, your goal is to be able to make it back to stage without having to use up special. While ejecting out of your mech gives you a couple frames of full invulnerability at the start of the move, immunity to projectiles while rising, and your air dodge back if you've already burned it, it leaves you completely open to attacks, with next to no way to survive if you get knocked back off stage. Even if you do land on the ground in snake form, it takes over half a second to rebuild the mech, giving your opponent the opportunity to punish you with whatever they want. Now with all that being said, we do not live in a perfect world, and there will be situations where the only option you have at your disposal is ejecting, so you should know how to use it. Up special has 3 different distances depending on what you hold after inputting the move. Holding up gives you the most height, down gives you the least, and not inputting a vertical direction at all is in the middle. The default safest way for you to make it back this way is to get closer to the wall, up special next to it, and air dodge into the ground right as you rise above the edge of the stage. This makes it so that there is a very small window to knock you back off stage in snake form, and you can tech the wall if necessary. For a mix-up on some stages, you can opt to go a bit higher and air dodge onto a platform instead, or feint as if you're going to do so and then drop through the platform and land on the ground anyway. That's all still pretty risky though, so let's talk about an important way to conserve your heat off stage. As mentioned earlier, using Elliana's strong attacks causes her heat gauge to go down, and the longer the strong is charged, the more heat that gets released. Because of this, a great way to live longer is to charge a down strong as you're drifting back to stage. Once released, down strong gives Elliana a small boost upward, stalling her descent and giving her more meter to use while recovering. You can do this down strong multiple times, while falling, as you hover, after an air dodge, or after a wall jump, but the amount of meter that depletes will lessen the more times you do it without landing. On the topic of wall jumps, they're a valuable resource to understand. Unlike other double jumps, Ellie's hover doesn't give her a lot of height instantly. Especially if she's already falling, it can take a bit for her to fully accelerate upwards. Her wall jump, on the other hand, does. Thanks to this, you can hold down your wall jump input in tandem with an attack to rise super fast. Using a mixture of these strategies will help you conserve your stocks and get back to the real best part of playing Elliana. Elliana is all about her punish game. Her combo tree is frankly ridiculous. Given the right starter or situation, she can steal stocks from combos starting at 0%. High damage output, however, is not situational. With top-notch air stats, high stun attacks, and access to missiles to catch opponents DIing away, practiced players can consistently dish out 40+% off of many neutral wins. When new players ask about bread and butters to learn in Rivals, the common answer is they don't really exist. In a way, this is true. The push and pull between strong offensive movement and strong directional influence means that combos are very free flow, and you need to constantly read and react to your opponent's DI in order to do even smaller combos. That being said, there's always going to be key moves to get comfortable with as vital combo starters or extenders. In Ellie's case, your best combo starters are going to be from the air. Particularly, Aerial Missile is going to be your go-to option to link into aerials such as neutral, forward, and down air. Combos into your aerials are going to be your lifeblood while piloting the mech. So try hopping into training mode and practicing stringing them into each other, utilizing both hit falling and her hover mechanic. Her air attacks beyond missile can be great at starting combos in their own right. Both of Nair's hitboxes have potential to link into themselves, up air on DI in, and a tech chase on DI out. Down air and forward air can accomplish similar things, with the final hits of both standing at a slightly steeper launch angle. Dare has some added utility on top of this, as its multi-hits can cross up people's DI if you get to the other side of them while in the air. You can also use Dare's multi-hits as a way to set up grounded opponents into down tilt, which is Ellie's best starter while on the ground. The second hit pops up almost straight up and has very low knockback growth, meaning you can follow it up with your arsenal of aerials against all DIs. Sometimes, especially once you start reaching those mid-percents, your opponent will start getting launched just out of reach and you won't be able to follow up with normals alone. Luckily, Elliana can still continue from here by shooting a missile while hovering, letting her extend farther than much of the rest of the cast could. Typically, you're going to want to end your combos with up air into itself a few times for damage and a juggle state, or push them off stage for Taking stocks consistently is often a struggle point for new Ellies. She doesn't have a lot of obvious immediate kill power like a lot of the rest of the cast might. That's not to say she has a hard time with it, quite the opposite in fact. But her kills are usually going to come from off-stage combos and edge guards. A lot of this rides on the back of moves like neutral air. For example, routing your combo starting at mid-percents into fair or sweet spot nair near the edge of the stage can let you follow up with another sweet spot nair, dragging them very close to the side blast zone. This all but guarantees a lost stock, as attempting to DI out can get them killed early, but Ellie can keep the combo going if they opt for DI in. Remember that this power is reliant on you always watching your heat gauge and adapting your routes based on how much hover time you have left. If you find yourself with a lot of gas left in the tank, that allows you many more options to follow a variety of DIs. It gives you access to the boost of momentum I talked about earlier, where you hold the attack button and forward or backward, letting you reach a little bit further or drift back to properly space a neutral air. If they're out of reach even then, shooting and following after a missile enables you to extend it even further, but only if you have the meter to do so. If you're close to overheat, you have to make the decision to either cash out with a powerful strong attack, or return to stage to continue your edgeguard from there. If you can't bring your opponents off stage, killing off the top can be a decent option too. At higher percents, route your combos into a hitfall up air, after which you can chase them to the top of the screen with another up air or an overheat strong attack, depending on how much meter you have. If you've got some heat to spare before it maxes out, it can make a world of difference when it comes to sealing out stocks. Ellie has this sort of pseudo super jump where she rises very quickly from the ground, and it lets her extend for kills much farther. This can be done by holding your jump button from the ground or the wall, along with the attack of your choosing, but it's most noticeable with chargeable moves such as Strongs or Side Special. You have other two pieces into aerial strong attacks as well, but they're generally reliant on DI in. They're still worth looking for though, since people are generally scared to DI out at higher percents, and understandably so. This is especially true in the case of back air, which, similar to Nair, can combo using both its sweet and sour spots. The sweet hit, however, has a hefty amount of knockback, which can catch people off guard in high damage scenarios, leading to early stocks regardless of DI. Kill options like Bear can also be opened up through Elliana's potent edgeguard game. While the best tools for the job depend heavily on each matchup, there are a few general ones you should be keeping in mind. First and foremost is Missile, which is great for pestering recovering opponents and forcing them into bad positions. You're probably not going to finish stocks with purely missiles, especially since using them repeatedly very quickly fills up your meter, but they are a non-committal way to start keeping people away from the wall and forcing resource use. Neutral Special, a slow-to-launch, explosive projectile, can achieve similar results in some matchups, but you have to space it so that the person recovering is within the final blast. Although it doesn't explode on contact with opponents, it does when it makes contact with the ground, meaning you can use it to reach well below the lip of the stage. Similarly, normals like dash attack, down tilt, and forward tilt can cover area around the edge at different spacings. The latter two can result in a combo opportunity, but be ready for your opponent to tech if they're next to the wall. For this reason, it is sometimes better to keep your distance a bit once they get close to the stage. This way, you can react to their options with something like back air or big missile without the threat of reversal. Steam also has a reasonable niche in edge guarding, as it can be a complete nuisance to deal with if the opposing character doesn't have an active hitbox on their recovery. Well-placed steam around the stage's end or along the wall makes it so that they have to either push it away or go around it, both of which can be quite beneficial. For characters that like to recover above the stage, up tilt can be a nice option to threaten. It is a long hit grab that is active for a whopping 21 frames, making it incredibly risky to make yourself vulnerable directly above Ellie. If the up tilt connects, you can hold left or right to choose which direction you want to send them, although it's almost always better to just chuck them towards the closest side blast zone. Upon launch, the move will consume any heat your mech has built up, making it stronger depending on how much is stored. Through this, Ellie gains access to the infamous up tilt missile nair, an essential win condition for the snake where you rise after them while charging a missile and then space yourself to kill with a sweet spot nair right next to the blast zone. You won't always be able to get that particular combo. If their damage or your heat is too low, the up tilt will not send them nearly as far, meaning they can safely DI away from the missile, or you'll be positioned too close to combo sweet nair after it. In these situations, it's better to do something like hover fair or just doing sweet nair without the missile. You can also hold down the parry button during an up tilt to get the weakest possible knockback, while not dumping your built up heat. In overheat, this makes the move an unreactable DI mix-up, where they want to hold in to live a maxed out up tilt, while holding in will lead to a kill if you press parry. Speaking of overheat, edgeguarding is probably the best place for you to be in this beefed up state. You're already in advantage with your opponent being off stage, meaning you don't really have to deal with the consequences of having fewer neutral tools at your disposal. Not only that, but overheated strong attacks can be a great boon here. The threat of a spiking down strong is always scary, and its forward-facing counterpart takes up an enormous amount of space in front of Ellie, allowing you to safely contest the majority of recovery tools and launch them back off stage. But there's one move in particular I've basically completely neglected to talk about so far, and it's what takes Elliana's advantage state from phenomenal to first in class, and that move is Mine. At the cost of a small amount of meter, Elliana's down special drops a mine that sticks to both the ground and opponents. It can be set off when it makes contact with your missiles or rocket fist. In the latter's case, it lets the projectile explode on impact, rather than at its usual set distance, along with bumping up its already sizable knockback. This is rarely very useful, but it is nice to know about. Missiles are what let down special truly shine. When you hit an active mine with missile, often called a mine pop, it blows up with a weak multi-hit explosion. Popping mine is applicable in all stages of play. In neutral, it can be helpful to leave on the ground, especially on platforms, making the space around it significantly more dangerous to step foot around. If it's stuck onto your opponent, the multi-hits give you enough time to follow up with nearly any attack you want, including another mine stick if you time it right. Because of that threat, people are way more likely to play super aggressive or fish for parries, because hitting Elliana with a launching attack, or successfully parrying her, are the only ways to get the mine off. You might notice that the mine is gray when it initially sticks onto someone, and then lights up red shortly after. This means that it's not primed yet. Only a red glowing mine can be blown up by missiles. On the other hand, an unprimed gray mine can't be knocked off, giving you enough time to find a hit or return to neutral. Mine Pop isn't just a great combo starter though, it's an even better extender. Throwing out a missile during your strings to reach faraway opponents becomes even better once they're stuck with it, as the multi-hits give you enough time to charge an overheated strong attack. This lets you access brutally early kills off the smallest of stray hits. But what happens when your meter is too low and you can only get a steam strong attack out? Strong Ellie players remedy this by implementing a technique dubbed the Assault Mine, where they drop another mine after hovering after the missile connects in order to burn through more meter, cutting down the time they need to reach overheat. The execution for this is pretty tight, so I wouldn't worry about it too much when you're just starting out, but it is worth keeping in your back pocket once you get more comfortable with other things. Specifically, it's really important to learn how to utilize Mine at Ledge. Instead of aimlessly pelting recovering opponents with just missiles, it can be a great use of your time and meter to stick a mine at the corner of the stage. Setting it off with a missile right as they reach the stage gives you a remote, lingering hitbox that safely intercepts nearly all low recovery routes. Since this gives you a guaranteed follow-up like Nair or up tilt, getting used to doing this if you have the time to set it up is imperative to Elliana's crushing advantage state. It's equally important to build the muscle memory for sticking mine whenever you land a parry. Mine drop into down tilt should be your go-to for the majority of parry punishes, letting you convert into huge damage or even entire stocks. You can also do Mine Stick into up tilt, which can be better if you want to reset your meter or play for offstage kills. Outside of parries, there are still plenty of good ways to stick people with Mine. You can drop it from above in conjunction with hover and down steam to fend off juggles. Apply it in tech chases. Send it offstage near the wall to catch low recoveries. Sneak it onto them right off the respawn platform. Or intercept movement by kicking it upwards with down tilt. While in the air, the mine's trajectory can be altered with any attack, sending it at the attack's usual launch angle. This can be combined with the first hit of down tilt's ability to kick the mine upward off the ground like a hacky sack, allowing for some fun and creative interactions. Creativity like this is what Elliana is all about to me. Even though you could classify her as a zoner at first glance, her main goal isn't really to keep you out and whittle you down. Instead, she uses her projectiles and space control buttons to safely find her way in and land that meaningful hit. Once there, she really just gives you all the tools you could ever want to craft a disgusting punish game that's all your own. But yeah, that's the end of the guide. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to every single one. Beyond that, if you're still itching for more info or tips, I definitely recommend joining the Elliana Discord server and Rivals Academy, both of which I've linked in the description. I am quite active in both of those, so feel free to shoot me a message if you ever want to get some practice in. Finally, I'm posting the Ellie VODs playlist in the description as well. It's not completely up to date, but it does have over 500 videos of tournament sets dating back to the character's release. I'd absolutely recommend taking a look at some of those, especially the more recent ones, if you're like me and you learn by watching.